Hi guys, I'm excited for today. We're still working on our super newbie sewing series. Today we're going to be talking about cutting fabric and the supplies you need for that. And we're also going to work on a quilt block. So if you're interested in quilting at all, this is not, then we will stick around for that too. Sorry, hold on. There we go. Okay, I think we got it. It doesn't want to stand the right way. I can't tell if I'm crooked or not. Okay, so I'm quickly just going to share this video and then we will get started. So check in with me when you get here. I always love to say hello. Good morning, Deanna. Hi, Stacy. Okay. Hi, Kathy. How is everyone today? It's really warmed up here today. I think it's supposed to be like in the 50s, which is amazing. With our negative degrees, the past couple weeks, it's been freezing. So I'm really looking forward to some warm weather. Hi, Kim. Hi, Debbie. Hi, Amy. It feels like the UK here today, Amy. It's very rainy. It's not even raining. It's just so humid that everything's wet, which is weird. It's kind of a strange thing. Make sure you share this video so you can find it later, so you can watch it later with the kiddos or with a friend or for yourself. So share this video, tag a friend who might be interested in learning to sew. Oh, my internet is not happy today, so hopefully we can make it through. I think we found a solution here. Knock on wood, I shouldn't have said that. I didn't find a solution for anything. Take it back. Take it back. I take that back. So I'm just waiting for my internet to, there we go, to decide if it's gonna work or not. I've got 2 more places and then I'm ready. So, good morning, Elaine. Come on, there we go. Hi, Claire. Did I say that right? I hope so. Good morning, Tracy. Yeah, you did need the rain for sure. Unfortunately, it seems to be causing lots of problems with all the fire damage. So hopefully they can get that taken care of. Okay, last one. When do I do sewing? What? I'm not sure. Okay, I'm all set for my shares, so I'm ready to get started. Okay, so first of all, I just want to talk about the supplies. So I put a link up above for my 10 favorite sewing supplies for beginners. There's so many things out there, so much you don't need. There's some things that you don't need that I like and use, and I'll tell you about them. And then there's some things that you don't need and shouldn't get because it's just kind of a waste. So I just want to talk really quickly through the supplies with you before we get started cutting. Hi, Nikki. Jealous. I would love to be in the Bahamas with you right now. So let's just talk about the supplies that you do need. First thing you definitely need is a healing is the word, cutting mat. And I like this one. It's 24 by 36. This is my favorite one. It takes up almost my whole cutting table. It's Fisker's. I love it. I actually have 2. So because they sent me one and I purchased one and they're just amazing. I really love them. There's 2 sides. So a dark side and a light side, a lighter gray side. It gets a lot of use from me. It's one of my favorite things. So my self-healing cutting mat, you definitely need a cutting mat. I mean, that's not optional. You kind of have to have one if you're going to be doing quilting or any kind of sewing where you're going to cut fabric. The second thing is a clear ruler. This is my favorite. This is the one I've used for years and years and years. It's 6.5 by 24.5. So the half is this extra little purple edge around. So this is a must for me. This one is awesome. It's clear, so I like that for a couple of reasons, and I'll tell you why. I mean, I think most of them now are clear. I don't know. I mean, I guess they do make some that aren't clear, but I don't really understand why you would use one if you're cutting fabric. So this is a clear ruler that I use. Then you need a rotary cutter, and I have two that I, back and forth between. This is my newest one, and I like it because once it's unlocked, you press this for the blade to come out, and then when you release it, it goes back in. So you're not constantly like on this one, which I like, you're fighting with the cover to protect yourself, because I'm always worried I'm going to drop it on my toe or on my dog, or my kid's going to come in and grab it. So you're constantly up and down with the we'll talk about the other rulers in just a second. Okay, Samantha. So this I do love this one, and this one's great for if you are having some issues with your hands and you can't quite do that motion. This one also has a rotating head, so you can hold it very simply just like this, which is nice, because with this one you do have to have some leverage, if that makes sense. It's just a different feel. See, I can cut like this compared to cutting like this. So it's a little bit easier to use if you have some hand or arm issues. So that's that one. But I do like this one too. This is kind of the Ergo. It's the package said it was Ergo, because it's nice. You do have to be able to squeeze it. So I know I've got some friends on here who kind of have some hand issues. So you have to be able to squeeze it with a fair amount of pressure when you're pushing down. So that's the difference between these. This one's great if you have some hand issues. I always, sometimes, like the other day I was in Joann, and there was an older woman who was looking for a rotary cutter, and I was like, you have to get this one, because she was like, my hands, and I'm like, this one is good for you. So she picked it up and got it. But I do like this one for the safety reason. So that's my two rotary cutters and my thinking on those. You can find the links for these in that post that's listed above. So those are the two things. These three things are the musts: the clear ruler, the self-healing mat, and a rotary cutter. Yes, I will get you a link to the rotary cutter, but you can also find the link for this one in the blog in the description of this video. So that's where that link is. But I will send you a link to this one once the video stops. I'll give you a link. So those things are the three musts for cutting. Now there's some fun things that you can do, that you can have, and I was going to talk about the other rulers since we've got them. I do have some other rulers, and I do have a triangle ruler which we've used and is good if you want to do triangle quilting, but it's for a very specific purpose, and all you can do with, it's just pretty much what you can do with it is cut triangles. So if you want to do triangles, I've done a video. We did a project with this, so I can throw the link in later, but we did a project with this triangle ruler. It's hard to see because it's clear. Before we did a placemat, but pretty much all you can do with it is the triangles. So that's the triangle ruler, very specific purpose. These are kind of all purpose, you can use for everything. So we do have a triangle ruler, not necessarily a beginner project. Another thing I would say don't waste your money is this small square, because I can't do anything with this that I can't do with my big ruler, right? Like it's the same thing, just smaller and harder to handle, and slips around more. So I wouldn't waste your money on a small square ruler. I can do that same exact thing with this. And then there is a hexagon ruler, which is nice. Again, specific purpose only if you're doing hexagons, but it's fun. Hexagons are fun if you like to do them. You can get a hexagon ruler, but that's also a very specific thing, not necessarily for super beginners. But I'm just trying to show you there's a ton of rulers and things out there, but you don't need all of that to start, especially when you're just starting out. This is a little bit more advanced. If you're really wanting to do hexagons, that's why you started sewing. You can get it and play with it and make it work, but not necessarily necessary. And then the last thing I bought, and I don't know why, it was an impulse buy, was these fussy cut squares. And it's kind of nice because fussy cutting is when you put it down on the fabric and you'll see exactly what's going to be what you're going to cut, what image is going to be there when you finish your block. It's got this to show you the seam allowance. I can do the same thing with this ruler again. Like, it's clear, so I can see, you know, I can add in a 1/2 inch and see what is going to be the finished look. So they have the fussy cut rulers, which are fun, but not necessarily a must. So I'm just, you know, showing you all the different things that exist, but you don't necessarily need to waste your money on. Then I'll show you, we're almost done with supplies, I promise. This is a must, a seam ripper. So I've got the link for this exact one in the blog post. But your machine comes with one. We talked about this when I opened up my new machine the other day. It comes with one. It's just really small, and I find it difficult to use. And this one is nice. It's meant to be ergonomic and fit better in your hand than those small ones that are a little bit harder to hold. So seam rippers are good. Not necessary but fun is, oh, my seam ripper's going away, is these little snips. And especially when you're doing quilt blocks, I really like these for breaking them apart and snipping the thread off your machine. Snips are fun, and I will, if you're interested, I can get you a link for that. And then fabric scissors, also a must. So again, yes, don't we all have the impulse buying? A pair of fabric scissors that you only use for fabric is also important and good. If you're seeing a trend, it's all orange. Yes, I have my favorite brand, obviously. Okay, then the other thing that is not necessary but absolutely fun and totally amazing for if you're quilting, and if you're going to be doing a lot of quilting, I love this. This is, let me move this stuff out of the way so I can show you. This, which we'll use it today towards the end, is my rotating cutting mat. So if you're new, you might not quite understand why yet, but it is amazing, and I'll show you why. It's perfect for squaring your blocks because it's such a pain to turn them and get them all lined up again. So this way we don't have to. We just turn the mat. It's kind of fun. It's got this little thing underneath, and we just pop it on. So this one is super fun. Really, really love it. Full disclosure, I emailed them and said I have to have it, and they sent it to me. So they did give me this one, but I needed it, right? I had to have it. So, that's that. And then, so that's all the supplies that I have and recommend to you. That's not all the supplies I have. I have a ton of them, but that's, good morning, Patty. That's the supplies that we're going to be using today. So today I wanted to, if you're just getting here, to my series, to my page, we're working on super newbie, introductory, very beginning sewing. So far we've talked about threading our machine, winding the bobbin. Help me out, I just lost everything that we've talked about. And we've also talked about just sewing straight stitches, and we did some stitching cards for practice. So go back. If you go to my Sew with Alicia page and click on videos, you can see the most recent videos that I've done are right there at the top, and we've covered lots of different topics so far. Today we're going to talk about cutting fabric. Oh my gosh, Tanya, I'm so sorry. Soon, the baby, they have to come out. That's just how it works. So she will eventually, it will eventually come out, right? Today we're going to be talking about cutting fabric, which I get so many questions about, and when you're new, it can be so hard and frustrating and intimidating because you bought this beautiful fabric and now you're going to cut it up, and what if you do it wrong? And so I'm just going to give you some of my tips and kind of how I do it, my techniques, and we're going to work on some half square triangles, which is the base of a pinwheel block. So we'll do a pinwheel block and then talk a little bit about the different things you can do with that half square triangle after you've made the half square triangles. So we will cut the fabric, make the half square triangles, and I finally plugged in my new machine. I'm going to show you how it works. So if you're interested, if you are thinking about getting that brother that I keep talking about, I'm going to show you how it works, and I'm very excited because I think my son has been asking to sew for a while, and I don't know if some of you guys know he's in a wheelchair, so there's no way he could do the pedal, but he can definitely do this. So I'm excited for him to come and try it. And sew with the features on my new machine. So I'll show you that too. So lots of talking, I'm ready. I'm sure you're ready to get started. So what I've done, I've already ironed my fabric. So you'll want to press your fabric, and I just use an iron and a spray. I spray the stubborn seams or lines. I spray with this and then press them out. So I've already ironed it, and today I'm so excited. This fabric has been in my stash for a little bit, and I'm excited to use it. It's Blend Fabrics. It's Blend, and this is the Colette collection, so it's kind of got a French theme, which I'm obsessed with. So, oh, thanks, Logan. So no, I don't wash first. You totally can wash first. I have never had an issue, and I have so many friends of my sewing friends who are like, my bloggers and quilters and everything, who are like, we don't wash first either. But if you do wash first, this is what I recommend if you are wanting to wash, which I don't, because I just don't have the time, and I'm lazy, and yeah. Anyway, so if you do wash first, fold your fabric, and especially if you're using smaller cuts, fold your fabric, do a basted stitch along either edge of the raw edges to keep from losing too much fabric. So that's what I would recommend. So fold and baste with a baste stitch is just a really long stitch to keep it from losing too much thread. So let's cut it. I'm super excited. Isn't this super cute? Let me show you. This is one of the prints, and it's just got a French theme to it, which I just adore. A Paris theme in particular. So this is Blend Fabrics, like I said. So I'm going to put these other ones aside. I've got a bunch. And yes, this would be a super cute apron. I think I'm going to make it into a lap quilt. So to get started, I like to make as few cuts as possible. So they sent it to me, actually, Suzanne, but you can find it on Etsy. I would just search Blend Colette, C-O-L-E-T-T-E. It's kind of hard to read on here, but you can see right there. If you want to screenshot that, it's Blend Colette, and you can find that on Etsy. So what I've done is I'm going to fold it in half, and I'm using these two. I use the straight edges, so the selvage edge and just the other straight edge across from it to line it up. So I've got those straight. That's my first step. I'm going to try and maybe I'll scooch back a little bit so I can try and make this a little bit. So I've lined these two edges up. Then once I've lined those up, I know I'm pretty straight on either side here, and I actually want to use the folded edge as my straight edge. So I'm just going to kind of give myself a wiggle there and flatten out from the folded edge out to the sides. And I always say it, but I'll say it again. This is just how I do it. So you can totally do it another way if you've got a better way. Or if you don't like this way, do whatever you want. So now I've got this. This is going to be where I use to make my first cut, is this straight edge. Now, when I put it on my mat, this is kind of long. Like, I don't like to make that long of a cut. So I'm going to just one more time, I'm going to fold it this way. Again, this is where I want it to line up, is here on this folded part. So I'm just going to fold it like that to get that. Now it's a much smaller cut, you can see. And I'm comfortable, my rotary cutter is comfortable with about 4 layers, which is what we've got here now. Anything more than that is just a little too thick, and you'll have to go back and it'll make it crooked. So I like to stick to about 4 layers. So we've got this, we fold it in half, and then we fold it in half again. This is our straight edge. So this is what I'm going to line up. I'm going to use the lines on my mat. It's lined up. The only thing I care about at this moment is this edge, because we don't actually have a true straight edge yet, so we're going to create that. But we want to make it as straight as possible off of this. So I lined that up with a line on my mat, okay? And then I'm going to come over here and straighten this edge. And we've got the selvage, so I'm going to cut inside the selvage so that I can get rid of that because I don't want to leave that on there. So now we're going to grab our clear ruler. And I actually prefer to stand when I cut, so I'm going to stand up. So I'm going to grab my ruler, and I'm going to line it up with the closest inch mark. Let me see if I can scoot this a bit so you can see a little bit better. So I'm going to line it up with the closest inch mark on my mat, and I'm going to use the lines on this ruler and line that up with the next one over. So the edge is on this, so I'll tell you, the edge is on the 23 inch and the 1 inch in is on the 22 inch here. So, and I've made it, the nice thing about this is these lines are black and the lines on the mat are white. So then if I can see the white, I know that I'm not perfectly lined up and I move it a bit, but if I can't see the white, then I know that I'm good. There are lots of options for gripping. They have some handles. I've never actually tried a handle, but they've also got these, which I don't know if you can see, and I've got them on my mat right, is it better with or without? There, you can see right here, I've got a circle. So they're some sticky, they've got some texture to them, so they kind of grip. So those are the things that I've, where's another one? Oh, there's one right there too. That's what I use for gripping. They have handles you could try out if you don't find that the stickers work. I will say they fall off occasionally and I have to put new ones on. They don't last forever. As in all stickers, they kind of lose their stick and you have to go again. But yeah, but I like them. But you could do without. I mean, I don't think it's 100% necessary if you're super careful and you keep a good firm pressure here. Again, if you have hand issues, you might want to do something else like the stickers or a handle, which I can't speak for the handle. Then so we've got it lined up. We're lined up over here. We're lined up here. Now we're just going to give ourselves that straight edge that we want. And today for this block, I'm going to cut 10-inch squares. So I'm going to grab my rotary cutter. I start before the fabric and I'm just keeping pressure up against the ruler as I cut. So I've got a lot of pressure here in my hand holding this down, pressure down on the cutter and against the ruler, and trim that edge off, okay? And toss it, or you should definitely find like a trash can. I shouldn't toss it on the floor. So now this is my straight edge, so I want to go off of here, and I'm going to cut 10 inches in because that's what I'm looking for. And I always count like 8 times because I'm nervous about the right. Okay, 10 inches. So this from here to here will be a straight 10-inch line. Good morning, Rita. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start before the fabric, firm pressure down into the ruler, pressure on my hand here, and just cutting straight like so. Oh, see? Even with 4, you get a little didn't go all the way through. I didn't push down hard enough. So I'm just going to use this. I'm going to put this aside because I'm done with it. But you could go again and cut another 10-inch off there if you wanted. Okay, so now we're ready to open it up, and we've got 2 strips that are 10 inches by whatever was left over. So now I'm going to take them apart because see, we've got a lot of, they're not the same. I don't want to cut all that off of each one, so I'm just going to take them apart and set one aside. So now we know this edge is straight. Exactly, Tracy, I have to check it. We know this edge is straight, so that's what we're going to mark that's what we're going to use to line everything up. So they should both be straight. So we should be lined up here and here because these are our 2 straight lines. And you're ready to, then we're going to give ourselves a straight edge over here. And I try and take off as little as possible, so I'm going to pull it to the line fairly close, as close as I can, while making sure I have some overflow over the line everywhere I am. So this is lined up on the line with my mat, and this is lined up on the line with my mat so I know I'm straight. So this cut will be straight. So I'm going to put my ruler down, again lining up all my lines. Let's see. Yes, you definitely want to be aware of your hands. That's firm pressure down here. Keep your hands well away. Use the hand holds. There's a finger spot here that your thumb goes. Keep your hands well away and make sure everyone else, little hands, are away too. I've got a link to this ruler in the blog post in the description of this video. If you scroll down a bit, there's a link for this ruler that you can find. So yes, it goes without saying, it's very dangerous. If you're not paying attention, make sure that you give it your full attention and be careful that, you know, keep this hand, don't like cut with it right here. Try to keep it away. That's another thing the handles are good for if you're wanting to get a handle, is it even more protection a bit away. So now we've got 3 straight edges. We just want to finish off our 10-inch square, which is here, I think. Never can. You'd think at my age I would be more confident in counting to 10, but yes, so here's 10. Like so, and now we've got a 10-inch square, and it should be perfect. And the thing I like about this mat, look, we've got a square on here already. We'll just, and look, it fits perfectly on the square. So now we've got one. If your, I should say, if your 2 strips weren't off, you could do, you could, let's see, you could use this square too if you're interested. If your 2 strips aren't, if they're the same length, you could cut them, keep them together and cut the squares. You don't have to take them apart unless, because I didn't want to lose that much on either side of the, so sometimes if it's smaller like this, you'll want to turn it around and cut the excess off of this side because it sometimes will get wonky. Yes, I do. I'm going to count like 100 times every time, so don't. Like so. And now we have 2. The other thing you could do, if it's long enough, that I do sometimes, take that, here's our other strip, I just fold it in half. There's lots of options. This is all a personal preference thing, depending on how nervous you are about it or how worried you are about losing fabric. Fold it in half, okay, and then find that square and make sure that you have some overflow on either side, and then we'll just trim the excess. And I try and do overflow on this side too, so I don't have to open it and measure again. I'm lazy is the term for that. So I'm lining it up on the top and bottom, lining it up here, and the first cut, as long as you don't cut off a ton, I don't have to really count because I'm fine. Just want to make sure I have 10, and I do. I'm going to trim that off, and then again, I'm going to flip it around. If I was using my turning mat, I'm not using it because this is the first few cuts are too big and I don't want to go back and forth. Now I can go to my 10 here and trim this. And it's not a ton, I mean, it's just a tiny little bit. But, or you could open it up and cut down the middle if you have exactly 20. Oh, hold on, I got mad. Because I was too, there we go. Sometimes you'll have to look over it, no big deal. Okay, and then we have 2 squares that are 10 inches if we do it that way. So that, and I did a few before, so we would have some variance here in colors. Oh, here it is. I'm like, I had another one. So now we have a bunch of 10-inch squares. So we are ready to put our blocks together. So what we're going to do for half square triangles, there's also a ton of ways to make those. I prefer the way that I'm going to show you, just because I do. That's how I like to do it. So you line up 2 squares, right sides together, and they should fit pretty good because you were careful to cut them. So also know you could make this with a pre-cut. You could do this whole thing we're doing with a 10-inch layer cake. You don't have to cut. If you're not ready to cut, get a layer cake. You can do this exact same block. You could do this exact same block with the charm pack. It's just, you can do this block with any size as long as they're all the same size squares that you're starting with. But we cut ours, so so line 2 pieces up, right sides together. Grab your ruler, and I need to let me get my pencil here, or a pen is fine. You're gonna grab your ruler, and you're gonna line it up so that I'm ignoring my mat. I don't really care. I'm just looking at the corners of my squares. So I want to make a perfect diagonal here from this corner to this corner, and then I'm just going to make a mark. Okay, and we're going to cut on that line, so it doesn't really matter if it shows. It's going to be fine. So you can kind of see I've made a line completely, let's see, diagonally there across the whole thing from corner to corner. Are you guys ready to see my new machine? I'm excited. So now we're gonna, and you do that with all of, actually let's do that real quick. Do that with all of them. Because I always recommend chain sewing so you don't have to, the fewer times you do a step, the better. So taking time to sew this, and then come back and do this, you know. Hi Stephanie. You're so welcome. Thanks for being here. So I'm just gonna line up a few. I want to have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 8. We'll do like that. I'm just going to I'll do 4 because I want to have some variance. I don't want too much. No, hold on. Sorry. Let me go back. I'm going to do 2 of each color. So let's see. Here we go. So that I have 4 of each to show you a pinwheel. That's what we're working on. Okay. Hi, Melanie. So right sides together. These are 10-inch squares. Like I said, you could do it with any size square as long as they're the same, and all of them are the same. Give yourself that. Good morning, Deb. Corner to corner. Hold on. This one doesn't feel right. Okay, that's better. And then here's my pen. Good morning, Kirsten. Then I'm just going to draw my line. Half square triangles, if you're new to sewing, are huge in quilting. I mean, so many blocks are made from a half square triangle, which is what we're creating right now. There are methods where you can, I think, make like 8 at a time, but I just prefer this one. It gives me a little bit more. You have to, for that, you have to cut it a lot bigger, and obviously it cuts it down to a smaller size of half square triangles. Hi, Gina. Line it up, make your mark. Okay. Now we're ready to sew. Okay, so today I'm going to use my new machine, which I'm excited about. This is, I'll turn it around so you can see it really quick. This is the CS 6000i. It's just Brothers. It's a basic beginner entry-level machine, but I absolutely adore it for newbies and kids. It's just great. So, my fabric pattern is somewhat directional, but not really. It kind of goes all the way around. And for these pinwheels, they're going to be turned around. So so we are quilting. We're practicing. We're working on cutting. So that's the main theme of this video, is cutting and different cutting supplies. Oh, sorry, are you still there? My internet seems to be going in and out. I didn't get too many new sewing gadgets for Christmas. I have so many, really. I don't, so I'm going to show you my new machine. I don't even have a pedal attached. Like, it's not plugged in. It goes right here. So this is where the pedal plugs in, and I don't have it attached. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, let's see, hold on. Let me decide what I want to do. I'm going to pull it in a bit, and then I want to just do a little back stitch, go back, one more time, and then all I do is press the button, and there's a speed control so I can control how fast it goes. I just press the button. I'm not doing anything with my feet, just so you guys know. It's doing it itself, and then I can speed it up if I want. Yeah, it's my internet was kind of going in and out. I think it's working now. So you can speed it up, but this gives you plenty of time. All you're thinking about is keeping the fabric straight. I'm not doing anything with my feet. I'm just making sure that my fabric stays in line. Just really nice. And then I'm going to stop it here at the end, go back a little bit to back stitch. I think you can hold that, and then go forward again one more time, and I'm done. So isn't that amazing? I did nothing with my feet, and it sewed the whole line for me, all on its own. So, I mean, you can just imagine how perfect that is for kiddos. Like, they don't have to worry about the pedal, even reaching the pedal. Like, literally, your controls are just right here in your hands. So then I'm just going to flip it around. Oh, I wanted to show you. I want you to chain stitch it. So pretend like I didn't do that. So I'm just going to go forward just a touch, and then I'm going to go backward just to back stitch, and then go forward again. Just with the press of a button. Isn't that crazy? Love it. Obsessed. Which means I can keep my slippers on because I usually sew barefoot, but it's cold, so I can't sew in my slippers. But now I can sew in my slippers. That's my real motivation here. Is this machine quiet enough for you guys? Okay, stop. Go back a little bit. I'm probably going to run out of thread here. Okay. Then, so I want you to chain stitch. If you're doing this, a couple of these blocks like I am, I want you to just pick up your next one and go. I don't know if we'll get through. Let's see. So then I want to start. Go back. It's a lot more brain power for me though. I am sewing the same square twice. Let me show you after I cut this. After I've sewn this one. Okay. I know. My old machine was a brother too, and I loved it as well. It's hard to, let's see if you can see on this side. I've sewn on either side of that line that I drew, because we're going to get 2 half square triangles out of this. It's hard to see. Out of this square. So I'm just going to quickly get through these. I'm not going to backstitch just so we can get through. It takes too long. So you can adjust the speed up here on top, which is really nice. And I'm just playing with it, so I could probably not stop if I was better at it, but I'm going to stop because I'm too slow. I'm not ready yet to not stop. time too for our snips here. I'm just going to snip these apart that I've done. And we'll throw it in the other way. I'm going to sew on the other side of that line now. I do miss the pedal because instead of stopping, I could just take a brief pause and pick up the next piece. That's okay though. I'll probably go back to my pedal. So with my pedal just because I like it. It's hardwired in me. Got one more to finish on the other side. Okay. It does have, you can put a quilting foot on it. Let me plug my iron in really quick so that it warms up when we're ready for it. You can put all the same sort of feet on it that you would put on your regular machine. So let me get organized here really quick. Like this. Snip these guys apart. So if you're making a whole quilt, you'll obviously make more of these. I just want to show you two different types of blocks you could do with this, so I'm not gonna do that. And just make some room here so I can iron. Got my manual right here because I might need it. I always keep it, and I just opened up this machine, so I'm probably gonna need it. Okay. All right, cleaned up. So we've got our blocks that we've sewn on either side of. If you can see, I've sewn about 1/4 inch on either side of that line that we drew. So I'm just going to take my scissors for this. You could use your rotary cutter, but I'm just going to use my scissors and cut along that first pen line that I drew. Cut a straight line. And I'm going to do that with all of them. And my iron is heating up because you're going to need to press. Using your iron is like 50% of sewing, which I didn't realize when I started because I hate ironing. But you're definitely going to want to use your iron. So this is where you want those nice heavy-duty fabric scissors. Put a label on them so nobody else uses them. It cuts really nicely through the fabric. So when I got my rotating mat that they just sent me, they also sent me a scissor sharpener. I'm really excited to see if it works. I'm skeptical. I've yet to find a scissor sharpener that I really liked, but hopefully it works. I think. Oh, no, okay. Sometimes it stops showing me comments, but I guess it hasn't this time. Okay, so now we've got, I'll open them up to see. Now we should have 8 half square triangles that look like squares that look like this. So we should have 4 of each. And these are fairly big. It does work. You've tried it, Kim? I don't typically spray mist my blocks. You could. But what I do is I will put it down and kind of finger press it to the way I want it to go. Make sure it's, I don't really pull, just kind of finger press so that it's flat. And then press it on both sides. So let me move my computer out of the way. So we'll press, go ahead and press. It's not too terribly exciting. like I said, I just finger pressed it down. And when you press, you don't want to like rub or pull. I just kind of go straight down and hold, go straight down and hold. And then I will press on the other side too, just to make sure it's flat. But if you pull or move the iron, it kind of warps the fabric. So that will leave us with this, nice and pressed. So we'll just, and you can finger press. I like to finger press on the hot board after I've done them. That kind of helps hold that press in place. Typically you press to the darker side if you're using, you press to the darker side if you're using like a red or a black fabric. You'll want to press it towards the dark, but this is really light green, so I'm not worried about that. And I don't press them open, I just press them to the side. So some people press them open. I'll show you what that looks like. I just feel like it's extra work and it doesn't really have too much of a purpose. I actually prefer this. I feel like when you quilt over it, it holds the seam in place a little better than pressing open. Because I feel like pressing open kind of puts some tension on that seam. So that's my thought, but that's totally just my brain. I was going to press it open to show you. That's my brain functioning, how my brain functions. And it just takes so much longer to press it open. Okay. I'll show you what that even means if you're new and not quite even sure what I'm talking about. So here is an open seam. This seam is pressed open, you can see. So it goes back towards its own fabric. And what I typically do is I press it to the side. So here's the difference side by side. That's what the difference looks like. This just feels like extra work. And like I said, when you quilt it, then look, there's more pressure on the seam if it does get pulled apart. I feel like if you do it this way and it gets pulled apart and you've quilted over it, it's holding it in place. So that's my thought process. That's just sharing with you where I'm at. It's, as in many sewing things, it's a personal preference. If you have good reasons for pressing it open, do it. Do what you gotta do. And sometimes I will set it for a second, and like these are gray, I'm gonna press towards the gray side. Just don't set it and walk away, because I don't want to be responsible for your house burning down. I don't want your house to burn down, period, but I certainly don't want to be responsible for it. Just doing it quickly so that we can get to the fun bits. Okay, almost there. Oh, my iron's dripping. So annoying. Okay, got one more. Nobody tell my husband that I complain about him on here, okay? Just teasing. I guess I can't complain. He uses the iron. That's... Hi, Cookie. That's more I can say, I suppose. Okay. This fabric, I will tell you again, it's Blend Fabrics from, and this is the Colette line. It's from last year, so, but I'm sure you can still find it on Etsy. So it's Colette. And I tossed my selvage, I will show you. So now we've got 4 of each. So let's just talk about the different things you can do. So hopefully you can see here. Oh, I'm still here. I hope you're still here. I know it cut out for a second, but hopefully you're still here. So I've just got, I'm gonna just show you I mean, there's tons of different ways you can do this, but there's so many different ways to play with these half square triangles and these quilt blocks. You can make a whole quilt just doing different things with the triangles. So first we'll just talk about a pinwheel, what a pinwheel looks like, and then I'm going to just show you how we trim up, because you'll want to trim up your, so a pinwheel is, let me get there, when they, hold on, sometimes the brain takes a minute, find the right way, like that, there we go. So a pinwheel is when they are alternated, gray, white, gray, white, gray, white, like that, so that you've got the 2 on the outside and the 2 on the top. There's just tons of ways you can play around with these, and you can just, or you can do like strips like that, so it's kind of like a diagonal line, and then when you put them together you do it like that, so you've got the lines along your whole quilt. You'd have a gray line and a white line and a gray line. So there's so many things. Just this half square triangle is really versatile, and with 4 there's tons of blocks you can make. So there's a diamond and the pinwheel. My brain takes a minute to figure out the pinwheel though. So this is what we're going to do with the pinwheel, which looks like this. So that's the plan. So, but first we need to trim up our fabric. So I want to show you my fun rotating mat, and why I think this is so amazing and love it so much. So I'm going to just line it up in the middle here, and I want it, so finished, I'm going to make it, I just need to pick, I'm going to make it 9 inches finished is the plan. So we are going to just, I'm kind of just going to line it up so that I've got a little bit overlapping all 4 corners of my 9-inch square. Okay, and you don't have to cut as much off. That's kind of cutting a bit off, but I like to have a round number. That way, if you want to cut squares to go like in between, you can cut them to a nice round number. So I'm going to cut it at 9. So I'm just going to start. I mean, these are mostly straight. If you had a section that was really crooked, you would want to kind of, well, hopefully you don't, because it's kind of hard to square up if you do, but everything's mostly straight for the most part. So I'm just trying to, I'm eyeballing. It doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm just going to line my ruler up, and 11 inches is where that is what I happen to be. The 11 mark is where I happen to be cutting. And take my cutter and cut. Then, oh, it didn't like it right there. Then the nice thing about this, instead of turning the block, I'm just going to turn the mat and cut again at my 9-inch. So 2 inches is where that 9-inch mark will be. On the 2, I should say. I'll turn again and trim. So you should be the same, like I'm going to cut on the 2 twice and cut on the 11 twice to get that perfect square. One more time on the 11. And that gives us a perfect square. I'm like obsessed with this rotating mat. So that's one. You'll want to do that with all of them. So we'll quickly, and one thing I will say, if you use the mat a lot and if you're making a whole quilt, I try and like rotate, move, like change it up a little bit. So maybe move it up here so that you're not cutting in the same exact spot every time, because it's self-healing, but you know, a ton of repetition will kind of destroy your mat. So I might, if I was doing a ton, move it around a little bit. But I'm only doing 4 right this moment, so. And if you can, I will say with these, try and get this diagonal line to line up as well, so that you're, you still have those points on your block. So I'm just making everything everything overlaps the 2 and the 11, so then I'm ready to trim. Forgot, I didn't turn my fan on because I'm like, it's freezing. I always get so hot when I'm sewing, especially when I'm sewing on my live videos. I'm not really nervous, but I don't know. Okay. I really do my best cutting standing up, so I find it hard to get the right pressure down when I'm sitting. Okay. And lining up this diagonal line too. Sorry, I gotta turn my fan off. Okay. So if you don't have a diagonal mat, I will show you. If you don't have a diagonal mat, you'll want to pick it up, turn it, and make sure you're over the same number you were checking, and that you're over enough over here to trim this side as well. So that, but line it up the straight edge you just cut with the line, and then cut. But believe me, this is like amazing if you are making a big quilt. This rotating mat is the thing, okay? So much quicker than picking up and lining it up again and losing that straight edge that you just made. Got one more. And really when you're quilting, you want to square off at every step. This one did not press correctly. Let's see. You really want to square at every step so that you don't end up with a really crooked anything. I feel like this is like crooked. Sorry. My tripod is wonky. Okay. Let's cut this last one and then we'll finish this block. One more. Ooh. Okay. So we've got it squared up. Now we'll line up our, I guess I could have waited till after I squared to line them up. We'll line up our pinwheel. Come on, brain. There we go. For some reason, the pinwheel really like blows my mind. Okay, so then you can do it two ways. You can do these. You can do them in pairs like this, or you can do them in pairs like this. Really, it doesn't matter. So just side to side. And my other favorite, which I didn't really talk about, you have to have something to keep things together. I prefer to keep things together. Oh, I'm running out of battery, so we gotta wrap it up. I prefer to keep these together with these clips. I never talked so much that my battery ran out. If you look in the description of this video, you will find, wait, which way do I do it? There's a blog post that has a link to all my favorite supplies, and most of the ones in this video. And then at the top there, if it's not in the post, at the top of that post, there's a link to my Amazon store. Amazon gave me my own store. Isn't that cool? So I put everything, like, and I update it all the time with all the things that I'm using. So you can find everything that I'm using there. The mat, the rotating mat, this mat, the ruler, all of it's on that Amazon store. So you're welcome. Okay, so I'm quickly just going to put this together. Keep trying to take my slippers off like I need to, but I don't. Okay, let's see. And again, we're going to still be using that 1/4 of an inch. Hold on. There we go. It reset the stitch. Use that 1/4 of an inch. And just back stitch a bit. Yes, 1/4 inch seam allowance. Sorry, didn't say the correct words. Okay. And like my snips for getting this all apart. Okay, last 2 steps, we're going to press these open, line them up again, and you'll want to make, once they're pressed, you'll make sure they're the same length, and if they're not, you'll square them up one more time. You might, if you didn't line them up perfectly, you might have to square the top and bottom. If they are lined up perfectly, you might just have to square the edges, the sides from the seam, if the seam allowance isn't exactly the same. That's why seam allowance is so crucial. You got to try and make it the same as much as possible, so that and I've got, so everything lines up there. So last bit, make sure your pinwheel is the right way, that you aren't backwards like this would be backwards, see? Make sure they're the right way for the pinwheel, and then I like to start in the middle and line up the seams. Oh, the seams here. Clip those down, and then you can clip the edges down as well. Okay, and we'll sew that in place. Sorry, my phone is running out of battery, so I should have plugged it in, I guess. Keep trying to take my slippers off. Okay, then we're just going to use that 1/4 of an inch again. Quickly do some back stitching. You can just hold down the back stitch button on this one to well, doesn't like that seam, does it? Okay. Okay. My machine got a little cranky right there at that point. You can, I think, what I did was, and it's kind of, I would try and, if you can, make sure that this seam is folded this way and the seam behind is folded the other way. I didn't do that, so mine are both folded the same way, so that makes a big chunk. If you press this seam, let me show you. Oh, I'm using it just for one stitch. So if you press this seam this way, that cuts out a lot of the bulk. So it was pressed this way, it kind of was bulky. But if you press it this way, it cuts out some of the bulk, and it will also help to not have a big point in the middle. So that's a tip after the fact. I should have done it, I didn't. So if you press it the right way, this won't be as bulky. Then the last step is just to press right here. Press this seam open. And that's your pinwheel. You can make a bunch and put them all together as a quilt. After this step, you will, so if you're making a bunch of pinwheels to put together as a quilt, you'll want to square again. So you'll take this and square all 4 sides like we did just for this piece. So square this piece, then square this piece, then square this piece. Every step you need to square. That's why cutting is so important. But here is, let me lift this up just a bit. Here is our pinwheel block. This is a really big one, so if you used like 5-inch squares, you would get a much smaller one, but this is a big one. Just so you're aware, I wanted you to be able to really see. So that's a pinwheel block, and you'll see, I mean, there is some direction to the print, but everything is kind of, you know, each way you go, some of them are up, so it's really, you know, it negates, it's not a huge issue. For me anyways, I really don't mind having the different prints go a different way. So that's everything for today. Make sure you guys tag a friend who is new to sewing and maybe intimidated by cutting. Share this video to your page so you can find it later. I will upload it to YouTube, so if you're a YouTube person, you can find me over on YouTube. Just search Sew What Alicia. You can follow my channel. I hope you have a great day, and yeah, let me know if you have any questions. I will be back on, what's today? Friday. I was going to say Wednesday, but I'm like, oh, it's already Wednesday. So I hope you have a good day, and good luck. Let me know if you have questions. No, it's not a 12-inch square. It actually comes out to an 18-inch square. Hold on. Yes, I used 4 10-inch squares, and the finished block is 18 inches. I squared each half square triangle to 9 inches. So it's 18, right? Yeah. Or just under 18. So that's that. All right, guys, have a good day. I'll talk to you later.